Hey everyone, this is NIckadeemus. So let's talk some Luke Cage.
I'm from a city where having a heart is not suggested. I'm a maverick, a tapping backs, I'm a savage. I'm cleaning braces with tongue and vacuum.
You wanna go to war? I'll take you to war.
You might be bulletproof, but Harlem ain't.
This city is supposed to represent our hopes and dreams. You have to fight for what's right every single day.
Why don't you just tell us your name?
So to spare a long recap, Luke was framed for murder and put into jail. There he was used as a experiment, thus making his skin nearly impenetrable. He escapes prison with the woman he fell in love with, and from there he tries to lay low and live his life in peace. He returns to Harlem after season 1 of Jessica Jones ended, where we find him working at a barbershop in the streets nearly overrun with gangsters, and sure, Luke is going to step up and step out for the town. Get right into it. Now the plot itself is pretty basic. Gangster hurting the people, hero steps up to stop the gangster and hopes the neighborhood can stay intact before it's all done. The twists that were sprinkled throughout the show unfortunately had little weight to it. Well, while I did feel that there was something at stake, I just didn't feel it from Luke. Everyone else was telling that this place is their world, their home. Now mind you, Luke did not grow up in Harlem, so he's supposedly as attached to it as the other characters are, but there's never that convincing moment that led me to believe that Luke was really invested in saving the city. Actually, I'll get back to Luke in a little bit later. Moving on to, let's talk about Misty Knight. She was a nice addition. She was a complex character who often seemed like the know-it-all, and then would often switch to the exact opposite. Despite this, her transitions never felt out of place. She did this one thing where she goes into like Sherlock Holmes mode, but this was never really done with at all. There was no point of it. Like, we knew she had some type of investigation sixth sense, and then that was it. There was a hot scene that emphasized her sexiness, even if near the series she was just like never having a good day, like never. But she was a normal woman, but had an abnormal chip on her shoulder, and I appreciated the conflict in her. Okay, so as we know, Claire is in this series. I'm pretty sure Claire secretly works for S.H.I.E.L.D. or something. She has the luck of constantly approaching all these street level heroes, and for some reason is always down to join in on their journey. I knew she would be in it, but for whatever screen time, who have not seen the show, whatever screen time you think she's going to be in it, it's more of that. Now, I enjoyed Rosario Dawson because I just enjoy seeing Rosario Dawson. I think her moment of shine was a bit too long, even though she was good in it. Now, here, there were side characters that they served the plot. Just to make a little mention of one being Pop, I think he did very well with what he was given. But to that extent, I really want to give props to the flashback characters. Usually, there was a few flashbacks in the show of Luke, Cottonmouth, Mariah, and those were actually good actors. Those kids were really good, and they did a really good job. Even their mother, they all did a really good job of portraying the character in their younger form before they became the person they are. So let's get to the villains here. Cottonmouth. Cottonmouth was the best freaking part of the show, in my opinion. He was grounded in a super reality and handled it the best way a non-superpowered murderer would. He was smooth even when he was losing his cool, and he has this thing where even when he was insulted beyond the point of shock, he would just laugh and then react in rage. And it's a thing that many people do, and he performed it so naturally. Him and Mariah, his cousin, had this interesting chemistry. While Mariah is a everyone, she's aware of Cottonmouth's shady work. She knows that he kills and has a short temper. Through every meeting that they have, she talks and argues with him just like he's another family member. And if you ever had a family member who's on the gangster side, like you've had cousins who could be strapped from head to toe, but when grandma starts yelling and starts slapping them heads, none of the guns matter. That's real. And they sold me on their bond as a family. Mariah is a mix. She's a mixed bag for me. I didn't enjoy the character in the later episodes as much as I did in the beginning. However, she became more relevant. I think her major flaw in the show was that the writers gave her a stronger progression, but denied her the right to earn it on her own, which is crucial if you want to have people buy character development. Now, there is someone who comes near the end of the show, and let me say this. Out of all the Marvel shows that I've seen that are supposedly grounded in reality, or super reality, this one person has balanced his cartoon presence against all the shows combined. Like, when I say this guy is a cartoon, I mean this guy gets all his stuff from Acme. I mean, he shared a dorm room with Dick Dastardly. I'm sure he himself realized that he was too one-dimensional, that he gave himself this over-the-top, religious, hypocritical motive. And he was over the top, and the show just took up time with his backstory, and the show dragged, like heavy dragged. And he's just quoting all these weird scriptures, not real scriptures, they're all scriptures, but he's quoting them and then turning them and twisting them into his own thing, which I guess is supposed to be the, how do you say, the whole point of, I guess they were making a point at religion, which is just, that was weird too, like, where'd that come from? But he had this whole thing going, and he stood out. He did not belong in that show. And no. For it's foretold, keep that cartoon niggas in the cartoons, and refrain from the worlds of the real. For even if the world is made from cartoon, let not this nigga stand out like a thumb that is sore in it. Banner 3 and 4. Now, the music in the show I adored is probably Luke Cage's best selling points. Some were not good, as obviously, but every time Paradise would open up with a performance, it worked. Especially how it would play along to whatever event that was going on that it kept flashing back between. Overall, I found Luke Cage to be merely okay. The action was clearly the worst out of all the Marvel shows, and Hollywood seems to think that once you get a super strength dude, they can only make slow and stiff attacks. I do not care about Luke Cage's past. I think they had a couple plot devices that make those scenes seem like they overstayed their welcome. Also, often the show would have a real black pride moment. And while I love the Jester, especially in this day and age, it was a little thick, heavy thick. Cage. Luke didn't work for me on an acting level and comic book level. All the conflicts that are normally a standard of Luke Cage that I knew before he became a family man was all gone. In fact, it seemed like that he'd become a black Captain America, but he doesn't really stand for anything. He doesn't stand for Harlem, despite him protecting it. At times he seems bothered by this current age of black America, but he doesn't seem bothered in other scenes. And when that situation returns, at one point someone calls him a nigga, he immediately jumps onto a sermon, and it just comes left field. Now, my brother, you want to call me a nigga? While I'm standing beside this building that envisions all the black hopes and dreams? This place where black happiness and Negro milk and honey resides. In 1962, this building was constructed by Jonathan. You get the picture. Look, I appreciate the gesture. I do. I really do. But nigga, this came out of nowhere and it felt clunky. His expression seemed nearly as hard as his skin, and when he's tasked to express an intense emotion, it's rough. His best scene acting-wise was already given in the trailer, when he went, "No, man, it's you," to Method Man. That all felt real and charming. I believe a complicated Luke Cage would have served the show better. While the comic book Luke is not the best role model, he's a flawed individual, and that's why we're here. We're here to see a great comic book show above all. I'll end my thoughts with a recap of pre-love Luke Cage from the Alias comics. Now, in here, just to give a sense of context, Luke and Jessica had fallout, and after they had sex, Luke lent a hand, and keep in mind this was a one-night stand. He lent a hand after when she was in need, after she showed up to his apartment while his girl was there, and he went on to tell her like this: "Now you fucked me. You came to my bar, then you got hammered. You hit on me. You pounced on me. And after a short exchange, he continued, you came by my house at 3 in the morning without calling. And even though you almost burned my entire life down by doing so, I still got Murdoch to help you out of the clusterfuck you made of your life. And you know what you did after that? Well, I don't know what you did then, but it sure as fuck wasn't thanking me for being there when you needed me. 2 adults. He points to her. Adult. He points to himself. Adult. And then holds up 2 fingers. Both adults. That little clip really just kind of minimized how Luke Cage kind of views things. And it was Luke Cage, yes. Did he use his powers for hire? Yes, he did. Yes, he was a guy who had a one-night stand while having a woman home. He was a freaking flawed guy. Some might say a jerk. Yes. He was someone who did care about Jessica. He worried about her. But no, he wasn't a great guy. That girl he cheated on did not deserve what she got, but that's the ugly beauty of it. Why couldn't he be a hero for hire? Well, the obvious answer is that that would hurt the black image. Wait, how? Is the alcoholic Jessica Jones hurting white women? Did the mentally disturbed and sometimes uncontrollably violent Matt Murdock hurt the image of white or blind men? Above any narrative, what is the most important is what you do with the characters. Luke is a black-white knight, and that's not interesting. Even his past love was made to turn him into an even more lovable and sympathetic guy. And when we're struck with mostly Luke and him and following his acting and his life, which is also boring, the show struggled to make it to the end, especially with the black murder priest waiting by the finish line. Luke Cage, again, as a whole, was good, but it wasn't great. So far, it still manages to be just at the cups above Jessica Jones, merely by the fact of the music. And I love seeing Cottonmouth. I love seeing him more than the Purple Man. And I have to admit, though, overall, though, Jessica Jones is a better show and better acted and better paced. So those are my thoughts on Luke Cage. I hope that he finds that right mixture, because out of all the characters that have now shown out, even every single character in the Netflix shows are flawed, but Luke Cage doesn't seem to really have a real chip on his shoulder besides, I just want to be left alone. And nigga, I just want you to be human. And that was my recap of Luke Cage. For those, if you agree or disagree or think that the Murder Priest was not over the top, or if you thought Luke Cage's acting was on par, please comment below. And I'll be putting out more videos like these as well. So if you like what you see here, subscribe, and there'll be more content shortly after. This is NIckadeemus, and enjoy the day. You think I asked for any of this? I was taken and put into a tank like an exotic fish. Who talks like this? An exotic fish? Really? That's the comparison? That's the comparison you want to do? Exotic? It's a tank no regular fish would ever go into. Look, that's not even your fault. That's the writer. The writer effed you up on that one. I don't know how you can deliver that line without it being funny. Exotic fish. They had me in a can like a sardine. It's just stop. Okay, we're done. Exotic fish it is.